Hello everyone, my name's King, and today we are going to be learning how to do some pretty simple city decorations. Now I only have a few here, but I also have a set where we can actually practice some of these and explore them in depth. And it's going to be less of like a block for block tutorial as the other two were. Check out those if you haven't, they're pretty cool. But instead it's going to be more of an inspiration and kind of walk-through guide of how to do these things. Which is why I have that set there. It's going to help us visualize how it's going to work. And I'll even hop over to my own single-player world to explore how I've managed to done it in survival, which is a little bit less over the top than this, but that's how that works. So anyway, first things first, a pile of crates. This works well for literally any situation, whether it be on the side of a building to make it look interesting, or in a barn, or storage, or even like on docks or something. Or just on the side of the road, say someone left it there because it's a bunch of junk they don't want. So the way I usually do crates is I use note blocks, and even without a texture pack, note blocks usually look like crates. But I mean, with the texture pack, they're literally designed to be crates, so they're good to use. I also use crafting tables because it adds a nice variation. They both kind of look like crates in vanilla stuff, and that's just kind of how you always do these things. And I also use chests, mainly because crates are supposed to be stored in, and these other two do not do that. But now that it's in 1.14, you can also use barrels, which in A Little Taste of Germ, which is the texture pack I'm using, if you place them upright, they have like a variant to them, depending on where you place them. So like there's apples and like hay bales and stuff, and it's all fine and dandy. And then I also threw an anvil in. So for the anvil, it's kind of just representing just like different kinds of workstations, like how the barrel is a workstation. You can literally just use any of them. They all work very well for decoration purposes of any kind, like interior decoration, city decoration. It all works. So yeah, that's that. And it's pretty simple to create. You just throw a bunch of stuff and pile it up. Make it as random as possible, using as many different kind of storage blocks as possible to give a nice little look. So yeah, moving on. Here's another classic. We are using oak logs. It could be literally any kind of log. And we are also using activator rails, which in my texture pack, or the texture pack I'm using, it's not mine, it's Germsy Boy's, check him out. In his texture pack, activator rails look like rope. So pretty self-explanatory. You just throw down some logs, make sure they're all facing either the same way or none of them are kind of just like a small, like none of them do that. Unless that like turns out to be really cool. And I don't use bark blocks. I use specifically the logs because it's like they chopped down the tree, so you would see the rings. And so it's just a bunch of logs layered on top of each other, preferably so that they all are not even. So some of them are longer than others and they all jut out at different ways. And then I just take the detector rail and place it on top. So it goes over, tying it down like a rope. Nice and simple. And this is a very old technique. If you don't have a texture pack that makes it look like rope, you could use regular rails and they do the same job. So yeah, there's that one. And then here is the final, very classic design. This design is a bunch of hay. Kind of Assassin's Creed style, like it's just a pile of hay that they just pulled up. Usually works best if the place actually has like wheat farms and stuff, but even without that, it could just be a pile of hay by the side of a stable or in the center of town where they just throw it together as a community thing. It doesn't really matter. And the way I have these multiple layers of hay is it's actually snow in my texture pack. Even without snow, you can use yellow carpet, which in the texture pack also looks like hay, so we have like that extra layer of variation. But even just regular yellow carpet would work great. And of course using the hay block. And this is kind of on the spur of the moment, but you could even like hide some grass, till it, and grow some actual wheat in there as well. That could look quite interesting. And the way I get it to look like this is very similar to how you would place down the crates. You just throw them all over the place, stack some on top of each other, and the major difference is within that, it's fairly organized, kinda, where it all just pillars up to one thing. While with the hay, I have it much more splayed out, and some of them do pile on top of each other, but a lot of it is just all over the place. And it's actually, if you look at it this way, there's like one pile here, another pile there, and a third pile here. And then there's just extra hay pulling it into one pile. So like there's a small lump there, small lump there, small lump there. While that is all one lump. So that's an interesting way to go about it. Now for these, they are not that complicated, but they are a couple variants of wagon designs. So this is sort of an open wagon that you would just like sit in, kind of Skyrim style, or even like put stuff in. If say you were to bring these out a bit, like so, you could put stuff in there. Let me just get rid of this. And the way I'm doing these wheels is they're actually acacia trapdoors, textured to look like wheels. You don't need to have that though. In a regular texture pack, in like default Minecraft, oak trapdoors have those holes in them, so it kind of looks like a window. You could use that. Or still use acacia trapdoors, because it has like the gridding. Or even jungle trapdoors, where it has like the hole in it. Just use whatever you feel looks best as wheels, and then just put a small little cart on top. All you have to do is make a 2x6 area of slabs. Put the trapdoors around like so. Grab the fence gates, place them this way, so that it has this like pseudo block area where a horse or say you could grab the stuff and pull it. And then you just grab trapdoors, place them like so, place them at the back, and then open it. And there you go, quick little wagon design. Say you want something a bit smaller, like a tiny wheelbarrow. Even like without the slabs, you could use a cauldron, if I can find one. Nope, it'd be in brewing. There it is. You could even use a cauldron instead. I just like using the slab because then the wheels actually are like lifting it off the ground. But this one is also pretty simple. It's basically the same as that, just one slab, some wheels, a fence gate, opening it, and that's literally it. You could put like a small flower pot or like some candles or torches or something on top, and it's a nice little design. Now this one is a tad bit more complicated, but it's a similar idea to that one, just making it bigger and putting a little roof on top. Kinda like whatever the time period was that did that, I forget. And taking a tip from the logs, I am using activator rails and just putting them on top like so to add a little wrapping. I would love to have like some kind of rope that would go here. If you have the regular texture pack and just using regular rails, you could put a ladder and it's all fairly seamless. But in this, it's not as seamless, so it kind of just has it laying on top, which is something, I guess. So for this design, it's literally the same thing with the slabs and the wheels and the trapdoors. The only difference is you have a wool of your choice and a rope. So, to design this, you have the top half of slabs where it's floating, 3 wide, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you fill it in. You place the trapdoor wheels. Same idea with the fence gates. It's the similar thing to that. It's just a full block wider, so it has like a pseudo 2 block. So like a horse could fit in there. Now with these trapdoors, you want to put these on the inside like so. Filler blocks for now. Then put the other 3 on the outside to give it a tiny bit of a curve. So you can also put like some storage and stuff on the inside as well. The storage and stuff is kind of useless because you have the thing on top, but you can barely put something there and access it. So, you know, it's worth it in the end. Now on this back piece, you want to put a temporary block there, and then put 3 like so. Getting rid of that one. It should close up like that, creating a hard right angle, and putting it back on the thing. Now we leave the front open, but here we are going to go up. So it's up 1 block. Do believe it goes all the way. No, it doesn't go all the way. So you leave 1 space open at the front, probably for the guy sitting here. And then you go up, leaving the block empty, and go all the way back. So it's 4 blocks of white wool that are 1 block off the ground, like so. Now you go in a block, like that, and then just fill it in to create that shape. Then you take the activator rails and put them over the top like so. Nice and simple. And it looks decent. I'm not very good at creating these kind of wagons, so I think for this small scale I usually build at, that should turn out pretty fine. It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to use all of these designs. If you think this one looks dumb, you could stick with those, or you could just stick with these and completely forget about these. But one more design people will sometimes forget are flower pots. So it's nice and simple, just trapdoor of your choice, leaves of your choice, 2 tall flowers of your choice, and the grass placing block of your choice. I have coarse dirt because having grass isn't very realistic, and coarse dirt looks kind of like fertilized soil. But you could use like podzol or regular dirt or grass even. It's up to you. So this is a fairly simple design. I think it's fairly well known as well. Should be pretty self-explanatory. You just do that and it does that. So here comes the fun part. We are going to take this mock-up city I've built and we are going to decorate it. Right now it's literally just a road, which has a fairly similar design to a video Artovian has made. Right about now, there should be his video in the iCard. Check it out if you feel like it. I think the only thing that is similar is I have this gutter, which adds depth, which is something he talked about a lot in his video. But yeah, so the only thing this city has so far is houses that are of a similar design to my first tutorial all the way over there. I think you can check that out. It's probably in our playlist, which will also be in the iCard. But yeah, so we only have the buildings and the road and a bit of sidewalk. That's pretty much it. There's not a lot of detail aside from this little patio thing and an anvil, which is kind of self-explanatory. This is a blacksmith, so it has an anvil. Yeah. So first things up, since this is a fairly well put together city, I am actually going to grab the Flowerpot design and walk you through that. So right here, we are going to put, no, that's a bit close to the road. Actually, yeah, it's a bit close, but it works. So I'm just throwing some coarse dirt on the ground, surrounding it in trapdoors. That one's a bit close. Closing it. I'm going to put a little bit of leaves in and throw a plant. And just adds a little bit to this house. The person that lives here probably just likes having a garden out front, and apparently likes having plants on top as well. Not sure how they get to that. The windows don't open, but that's besides the point. Yeah. So we're going to put another one here. This one's actually going to be on the side of the building, so I can afford to make it a bit bigger. And so we go like such. And as you can see, it can be made at whatever size you feel is necessary. And the trapdoors only need to be on the side that does not have a wall. Like if there's a wall there, you can just use the wall. It's quite nice, actually. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of leaves in here. Actually, yeah, that's all the leaves that need to be in there. I'm just gonna throw some plants. And it looks nice. Now I'm going to give a tiny little one to this guy. Like such. And this one I'm just gonna go like that. Just a tiny flower thing. And it just adds a tiny bit of life to the place. It already feels much more lively like that. So, next up, we are actually going to be throwing a bit of crates and things around. I am not going to take the anvil this time though. So, first up, I'm going to throw a little bit here. Just to make it feel a little bit lively. And as you can see, these piles are actually really big. but when I bring it to a scale of a city like this, I'm making it very small because these people have fairly large living space or storage space up in this area. The roof of the second floor actually ends right about here. So from here up, it's all empty space that they could theoretically have storage for. And so on the side of the road, where people are actually going to be walking, they probably won't have a lot stored up there. On the backside though, where there's literally nothing, say this place is much more busy when it comes to blacksmithing. Yeah, this is the blacksmith. They probably have much more crates lying around, like such. Throw a bit of chests here and there. Throw some crates, like such. And then, yeah. So, a lot of what I do with these crates is instead of just building a pile that's self-standing, I have the pile be piling up along a wall. Because it feels much more realistic if someone say this is a fairly decent sized alley, like the next house starts around there. They're not going to put their stuff in the middle of the alley. They're going to have it on their side. So I feel like that's a detail people usually miss when decorating their cities. It's to make things A, realistically small and not going over the top with it, and B, making it feel like the decorations actually are a part of the city instead of being like a modular thing that they just put wherever feels empty. They put it where it makes sense. So, moving along that same vein of putting things wherever it makes sense, we are going to put the chopped down logs. And what first comes to mind is this place doesn't have a place that like chops wood, so it doesn't really make sense to put chopped down logs. Except this building is a bit different than the others. So say this one is a house and that one's a house. This one has colored windows, and if that is like a theme of shops having colored windows, these have colored windows. They probably would sell magic because it's purple, but instead they're going to sell logs. So if we were to go through this little alleyway here that I've built, this house actually has plenty of space. And in my mind, if they have space or built their house in such a way that they have space within a small alley, it's so that they store stuff. So in this case, they would be storing wood. Perhaps they actually use the wood for a fireplace, or maybe they do actually sell wood, which would be interesting to have in like a city, someone that actually sells wood. They would actually do it like this. Now, right here, there's no real way for the rope to go over, so I'm gonna bring that out a bit. And so the way you do this rope is it doesn't matter where you put it as long as it goes up and over on both sides. Now there's a wall here, so it doesn't go all the way over, but you can imagine the rope is like tucked or like squeezed in there, and they only like chop off the ends and then cut the rope and then continue chopping. So I put the rope as far apart as possible. If there's like more than like 5 or so blocks, you probably should put one in the middle, kind of thing. I just broke that. But yeah, there we go. There's some logs in the place, and it actually sort of makes sense, even though it's a city. Now, going along with that idea, we got the hay bales and things. Now, to me, there's plenty of room here. Why not put some hay here? And say this place actually does produce a lot of wheat. Maybe these people bought some and are leaving it here until they can get someone to transport it, grind it up, and something. I'm not sure. I'm making things up as I go. But along the vein of don't make it too oversized, we are going to throw just a tiny bit of wheat around the place in what feels like it makes sense. Not enough so that overwhelms the idea of the place, but enough so that the idea comes across. So the way I do these snow layers, if you have this same texture pack, I just sort of throw them around, make it as messy as possible, so the wheat like splays out as much as possible, like so. And there we go. That is actually a lot of wheat. That is not what I meant to do at all. So I'm just gonna tone it back a bit, like so. And I'm okay with it spilling out a little bit, probably not that much. So something like that works. And I love this thing with Optifine where like translocates or puts snow on something that doesn't actually have snow there. It's a nice touch. I probably do not like it there though. And so I'm gonna throw some carpets on top of some of the wheat to make it seem taller. And there we go. Now then, carts. Actually, wait, no, before we get to carts, I'm gonna throw a little bit more hay on this side as well, so it feels more in line with the rest of the place, because it seems a bit out of place here at the moment. And so if I throw some on the other side, maybe a little bit of wheat within the city, like maybe a small little patch there, and one, say, here, it should just make the place feel a bit more, like, give the place a little bit more continuity. Like there. So it's kind of in the way, they probably need to clean it up. But it's there, and it makes sense that those guys also have some wheat. Now that is something I did not know about. That's actually quite interesting. I might use that at some point. So yeah, just throw some wheat around, or hay, snow hay. Hey snow, how you do? What? I don't know. That should do it. Just to give this place a little bit more continuity. I'm gonna put a little bit there. And that's good. So, on to carts. Now there's a small little detail I usually do with carts that I'm not sure if people actually notice or not, or take into account, but I like thinking about like the right of way. So instead of putting a cart like smack dab in the middle, I want it to be offset a little. A, because humans are inaccurate, so they wouldn't be able to get exactly in the middle. So I usually offset my vehicles to one side of the road or the other, but also because this road, even though it's a small road, it's probably used both ways. So I want them to preference one side over the other. Now I'm American, and this place isn't that realistic. So I am going to actually have my vehicles favor the right side of the road when going this way, and the right side of the road when going that way, because the right side changes depending on where you look. So anyway, doing that, it doesn't matter if path blocks get removed like that, it just happens. You learn to live with it. And so I'm just going to build a little thing. It's probably in the gutter, like this. That's not good, but potato. Good excuse, good excuse.
I hope that it will help.
So I'm just going to make a little cart like so. And I'm going to just do that. Let's say there's another one coming in from this side. I just build it the same way. It's just coming from the opposite direction now. I'm not sure why it's so jittery when I place and break blocks. That is actually kind of disappointing. 1.14, everyone. So this one, I'm actually going to make it the wider design so that I can place blocks within it. And what I'm going to do by placing blocks in it is I'm actually going to establish a continuity within everything. There's hay bales all over the place in this area, as well as crates and of smithy and log stuff. So this specific thing, I'm actually going to take one of those products, as in the hay bales. I'm going to create a bit of a continuity. Maybe this guy actually sells the hay. So this specific thing is taking the hay somewhere. Like so. And so it just creates a little scene here. Adds a bit of detail to the place. Now I'm going to create one more of the 2 wide ones. And as you can see, I haven't actually made these because they are actually a bit too wide for the design, or for the scale I'm at, which is kind of disappointing. But if, say, you have a road that is in the middle of nowhere, you could have some of those, so like people are traveling kind of thing. Or like at the outskirts of a city, you could have like a bunch of them lined up or something. So this one is also going to be on the larger scale kind of design idea. So I'm going to do this, wrap these around, break out the middle, close it up, and this time I am going to be transporting logs. Specifically like a small bit of logs. Nothing major. It's just going to be small chopped bits of logs that did not make it, or did not really get used by like a larger thing dragging them around. So this is probably a bit precarious for whoever's transporting them here. This is probably not smart at all, and he should have brought a bigger buggy. But it just makes this place look a bit more used and hustling and bustling. I kind of like it. Now I'm also going to throw in... I'm going to throw in some of the smaller ones. So say right here, a little kid is probably grabbing something, bringing it somewhere. Or the guy in this house owns this and just left it outside. So just throw in a little bit of detail. And we already did that. So that is all the designs except this one, which is too big to fit. So there we go. That's how you detail a city. Now I'm going to hop over to my single player world to show how I managed to do this, or take some of these ideas and actually implement it to my own world. So bear with me as I make the transition. Alright, so I'm currently in my single player world. That is survival, of course. iCard, check it out. I think I already said that. But the idea of this place was to make it fairly similar to like a regular Minecraft village, just in my style and with lore and things behind it. So the detailing and like decorations of the place is fairly limited. Also because it's in survival. But I have things like crafting tables around, and like this is my current project, and there are these roads with buildings not done, but a lot of details I have thrown about are like hay bales, just random single block hay bales next to buildings. So this is actually my mausoleum. This is where my base actually is. Like I lead down in here and it goes to my base. But I have a bunch of these carpets all over the place. This is actually yellow carpet, and the reason why there is grass is it's actually a leaf with a torch. By doing this, I barely have enough light to keep this place spawn proof, but it adds a lot of texture to it. And I've actually thrown in single hay bales within the place, as well as candles. And that's just literally the giant pile of hay idea, just spread out and making it feel more open by throwing it much more sparsely and in the corners. Now, as we go further into the city, you will see a bit more of that idea of like a sparse throw hay everywhere type idea. So the way I've currently decorated my town is by actually throwing actual hay, as well as single block hay bales along the buildings, to give this place like a very lived in, and like they constantly grow things, and so like seeds would blow over from the farm and it just like plants itself within the place. So there's practically way too much of this, and by the houses they actually have hay bales or crafting tables. So it's literally the crate idea and the hay bale pile idea, just on a much smaller scale that would fit the general idea of a regular Minecraft village. Now over here is more of that crate idea at regular scale, still very small, but we have more chests and things piled around the place, and the pile of hay thing on the ground. And another way I've decorated the city, as you can see, more crates and things. Another way to decorate the city is to just make it very overgrown, so all of the buildings have at least a little bit of bushes. I'm going to have to break a rule, but this is a showcase, so I'm allowed to. But I've also thrown actual bushes around the place, sort of haphazardly, with flowers all over the place, as well as the wheat idea. But that's also how I decorated this place, because it's supposed to be overgrown and kind of ruined, but people live in it anyway and don't clean up after themselves sort of idea. So that's another idea you could get to explore this idea. But anyway, I have been King from the King team. Actually, scratch that. I always forget what my intro is. Yeah. Bye.